Conjuring 4 is reportedly in the making at New Line. What do you make of that?
Well, it's a no-brainer. The Conjuring films have made $2 billion worldwide on a combined budget of like 150 million or something like that. I apologize for not having the numbers right in front of me. Um, it is the biggest grossing R-rated horror franchise of all time. In fact, I think it's the biggest R-rated franchise of all time, period. Yeah, I think it is. And in terms of anything that you could count as a quote unquote scary movie series, the only thing that's bigger is the Jurassic franchise. And you can get into fistfights with people arguing whether those are horror films or not. I think the first two definitely are, but after that, it's a coin toss. Um, and there was some talk, there was some concern after David Zaslav did his big "These are all of Warner Brothers' awesome IP that we have" presentation, and Conjuring was not on the poster board. It's like, again, I think it's more useful to judge what the studios do rather than what they say.
Hmm.
And that's actually good advice in general, even in politics. One of the reasons I think Rachel Maddow was even more useful than usual during the Trump era is that she tended to report on what Donald Trump did rather than just what he said. But I digress. They were never going to not make Conjuring films. I mean, the last one did $200 million on a 39 budget in 2021. That wasn't that much worse than Annabelle Comes Home in summer 2019. These films are popular, they are well liked, they are reasonably budgeted, and the Conjuring universe is the first and I would argue only fully functioning, entirely successful post Avengers cinematic universe.
So,
So, Hollywood spent 10 years trying to make their own. Conjuring is the only one that actually pulled it off
do you think
without a
there's
hitch.
do you think there's going to be a rival to the Conjuring universe because it's so successful?
No, because I think they would have tried already. I think, unfortunately, the Hollywood mentality right now is sort of, when you're trying to do that, you go big. I don't think The Conjuring was initially intended as a quote unquote cinematic universe. I just think that's how it worked out. And James Wan and Walter Hamada were so successful in that after Justice League crashed and burned, Warner Brothers did the very logical thing and said, "Hey, Walter, you want to come fix DC?" And he did. And he did, but now he's gone because nobody seemed to, give him any credit for that. But I digress.
Except you, because you are his biggest fan the past few
Well,
weeks.
for all I know, he's a terrible human being. I've never met him. For all I know, he hates my guts for one reason or another. But I think as an executive, he did what he was hired to do. He did what a lot of us all said we wanted DC to do, which is make a series of loosely interconnected DC Comics films that varied in size, scale, budget, and genre, most of which were either got good reviews or strong box office. And even if it was never going to compete on the same world as Marvel, because they had, a several year head start, they started back when, Captain America could make 371 and be a huge hit on a 140 budget. Um, there was still a world, especially before COVID, where DC was going to thrive alongside Marvel, playing a slightly different game, playing by slightly different rules, and with the notions of success, slightly different than what was expected from Marvel, because Marvel couldn't make a movie like Joker or a movie like Birds of Prey or a movie like The Suicide Squad.
Why not?
Uh, well, because they're R-rated films, or they're only loosely connected or not connected at all in the case like Joker from the quote unquote cinematic universe. The Batman, that's its
Hmm.
own thing. That
Yeah.
is not connected to DC films. Um, and again, that was all of these films were in production or in development before COVID. And had they all opened as planned, along with Wonder Woman 1984, you would have had a years long winning streak where most of these films were commercial successes and or got excellent reviews.
So Walter Hamada is reportedly out of Warner Brothers now. Do you think there's a world where he goes back to the Conjuring franchise?
Oh no, he's out of Warner Brothers, period. I
Okay.
think he's very unhappy with how, and again, without getting into good and evil, without getting into right or wrong, he is very unhappy with how he was treated over the last 2 years, and especially when David Zaslav came in. You know, he produced Batgirl. He produced Batgirl under the the quote unquote orders of Jason Kilar of AT&T, who wanted streaming level movies on the DC universe that were intended to premiere on HBO Max. So he fought without getting melodramatic here. He followed the orders of the last person, and he was penalized for it by the new regime. Which, whatever. Again, this is movies. This isn't politics. This isn't good and evil here. Um, Now, where he ends up, I don't know. I'd like to think that everyone knows that he's very good at what he does in terms of being executive. I imagine he will end up at like Universal or Netflix, or anyone that wants him can get him. And I imagine he won't be unemployed for any longer than he wants to be. I'm inclined to think he'll end up at Universal because he knows people there. And I think it's in Universal's benefit to continue to make the sale that they are a safe place for promising and or marquee filmmakers that don't necessarily want to make a bunch of big budget franchises, as we've seen with Chris Nolan, Michael Bay, Jordan Peele, M. Night Shyamalan, probably a couple others that I'm forgetting.
Well, Scott Mendelson, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Always a pleasure.